Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to Where the Road Rises, Law, Lessons, Legacy, with me, your host, Eileen Curlin-Walsh. What better time than a new year for a fresh start to make lifestyle changes, gain the vibrancy and clarity and energy we need to get our resolutions underway and make our dreams come true. Our guest today is exactly the right person at the right time to help us do that. Erin Dubick is a nutritionist and a dietitian with degrees in addition to neuroscience, psychology and dietetics, a master's degree in nutrition communication. Erin has led hundreds of people through her fat loss and personal transformation program. As a professional speaker, she enlightens audiences everywhere on the value of well-being and self-love. Erin has also written widely on showing up for life with spirit, vibrancy, and pizzazz. And it is our pleasure to have her discuss these subjects and more with us today. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you, Eileen. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, we're delighted at the start of the year to have you tell us how to get the energy we need to make those dreams come true. Erin, you come by your philosophy on a loving relationship with food, honestly, not just with your stellar education in dietetics and nutrition, but by your own experience. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell us your story?
Well, when I was younger, I ate a lot of sweets. I was overweight. I always, even in the single digit ages, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a little pudgier than everyone. But by the time I was a sophomore in college, I was clinically obese. And I felt I'm smart, I'm pretty, I have these friends, but I was hiding in my college dorm room. And I wasn't standing up in class, and I wasn't really being the person that I knew I could be. I was hiding behind the comfort of food. And so throughout my journey of wellness, I discovered that if I used food as a source of nourishment and found comfort through healthier ways of being, that's what led me to be able to create a healthy, strong body and be able to maintain it.
Right, and then you went on to take your education in nutrition.
Yes.
So tell us about the connection between our brain and the food we eat, that we don't just look out and make a choice based on what's there at that particular time. What's going on?
Yes, well, actually, there's a really strong link between what we eat and what we think. And I actually did a talk for the Illinois Counseling Association for their annual conference with another dietitian called What We Eat and What We Think. Because scientists call our gut, our digestive system, our second brain. There's actually more neurons in there that are in our brain, and they think that our digestive system is actually sending signals to our brain about how we feel. And so some people may know that there are links between food additives and certain ingredients like wheat and gluten that may affect people with certain behavioral conditions. Some people, young people with autism, if their parents take certain ingredients out of their diet, they have a better quality of life experience and better behavior. So on an extreme perspective, some people can see that if you take this out, the behavior becomes better. But what a lot of us don't realize is that what you and I have on a daily basis for breakfast or for lunch or for dinner, every meal affects on a subtle difference, but that adds up over time, our mood, our cognitive function, our energy level, and our brain controls everything. And so there's really no hiding the effect of what we eat on how we're operating.
And that's the subtle level. Remind us how the connection between food and disease exists, how what we eat makes a difference.
Yeah, I heard somebody say one time that everything that we do, it's either bringing us alive or making us more dead, which was an extreme statement, but true. And I think I can connect that with food in that everything that we eat, each ingredient, down to the molecules, is either providing nourishment or, especially on a long-term level, creating chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is related to almost every disease out there. And so everything's either nourishment or creating inflammation.
And that's kind of a really black and white way to look at it. And you connect food not just to our physical health, but to our vibrancy and our energy and the pep to just keep going and do new things. So talk to us a little bit about that connection, Erin.
Well, I saw that happen over time for me because I've always had quite a bit of energy, but especially all of those years where I was eating a lot of sweets, eating a lot of carbs, I would get those afternoon slumps and not feel as energetic. But as I improved my diet, I had more energy. But as I stayed really consistent and really fine-tuned, and over years and years and years, gradually ate more produce, more plant-based foods, less sweets, as I aged, I actually found that I had a higher sense of vitality.
Okay.
Yeah.
And therefore, the better you eat, not only are you healthier, but you just have more energy to go get those goals, which is ultimately what our show is about. We want people to have the health and the vitality and the energy to get out and do whatever it is they said they want to do, that they're going to do.
And that's my personal motivation, and I know some people's motivation is one of the reasons I stay consistent in my healthy eating is because I know that it supports what I'm able to do with my life. And if I don't eat well, even if I make a different choice for breakfast, that may impact what I get done for the day and whether I'm able to do something positive for the day or not, and all of that adds up over time.
And it's not just, healthy eating is just not about longevity, but the quality of every day and every hour that we have. I love that. And you ask us to pay attention to how specific foods make us feel rather than just whether it satiates our hunger or not. Is it making you feel focused or foggy, alive or lethargic? So what are you getting to with that?
What I'm getting to with that is it's kind of threefold. One point refers to all of the diets and ways of eating that are out there that not only health professionals often have an opinion on, but you know, your friend, your sister, your neighbor, everybody has an opinion on a certain diet, whether it's vegan or paleo or Whole30, and they say, you know, this is the diet that will make you feel great, and this is the diet that will make you feel great. But not everybody is designed the same, and so certain people, even maybe at certain times in their life, may be best served by a certain way of eating. And so that's why it's important to pay attention to your own individual response to certain foods, because dairy may be great for some people and dairy may not be great for other people. And so you can't listen to what the other person is saying. You have to notice how it is for you. What makes that hard, the second thing that makes that hard is that most of us, especially most of us in America, are feeling lethargic and foggy on a regular basis, and so it's become almost normal, and most people have no thought or idea that what they've been eating has actually been contributing really greatly to how they're unable to have the clarity and energy that they want. And so if you can clean up your diet a little bit and then reintroduce something, you can notice, you know, are you foggier? Do you have bloating? Do you have a little stomach ache? Do you just want to, I mean, the most basic thing somebody could identify with is eating a certain thing for dinner and then needing to go and lay down. That is normal in America, but it's a sign that what you ate didn't serve you.
So every meal, Erin, should energize us, even our dinner in the evening. It's not natural to just sort of flop.
Correct.
And I think we have become attuned to believe that that's normal, that it's just part of the end of the day. And in Europe, maybe that's why they have their dinner at lunchtime. They have their main meal, I should say, at lunchtime, whereas in America, we have that very heavy meal in the evening.
Absolutely. When I do a lot of my talks, I say to the audience, I ask them, what is the purpose of food? And everybody says, you know, fuel, energy, nourishment, life. And then I say, how do you feel after your average meal? Tired, want to lay down, etc. And so there's a big disconnect between what we intellectually know food is supposed to do for us and how we're actually using it.
And we have tied it so closely with entertaining, with dating, with treating ourselves and going out. So maybe that's why we focus that meal in the evening. But I agree, we absolutely should be eating maybe our most sustaining or our largest meal during the day. Or maybe you're going to tell us in a little bit about how we should eat and when. So before we get to that, Erin, let's talk about some basic good foods. And I know you've said that not every diet is right for every person, but I'm sure you would agree that there are some, be these superfoods or basic foods that are good for the human body. Tell us about a few of those.
Yes, well, there are so many foods that are really nutrient rich. I immediately think about spinach and kale. I mean, packed with all sorts of vitamins and minerals, fiber. In general, you'll see that the foods that I give you are all plant-based foods and produce, because most people are not consuming even close to what would be of greatest service to their body. So greens like spinach and kale, citrus, lemons, oranges, grapefruit, all kinds of berries, especially blueberries. Blueberries are loaded with antioxidants and phytochemicals. That's a smaller group of molecules that serve us in tiny little but important ways. Your really bright and vibrant orange-red vegetables like sweet potatoes, butternut squash. So really the more vibrant it is, but don't exclude cauliflower, because cauliflower is not vibrant necessarily, but it has some good cancer fighting properties in it. And so I think those would be the ones that I would encourage people to eat more of.
And is there a relationship between those vibrant colors? And other than cauliflower, you talked about the vibrant red, orange, greens. Are the colors in some way related to their nutrient-heavy content?
Well, there are things called phytochemicals, and phytochemicals are things that you'll never see on a nutrition label, because there really are even so many more than scientists can identify, and they're almost the tiniest. I don't know if they're smaller than an antioxidant, but they're smaller than a vitamin or mineral, and they're really unique. There's a unique combination of them in every single plant-based food, and they all contribute some way to the ideal function of our cells in our body. And so that's why it's important to get a variety, because not every piece of produce that you consume is going to serve you in the same way as another one.
And as you make that explanation, I'm thinking this is why it's such a good idea to get diet advice from someone who has your degree of education. So as a dietitian, you've really studied the chemical makeup of food?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. We take a lot of biology classes, chemistry classes, food science classes. And so most of my dietetics education has actually been based in science and research, statistics.
Great, great. And what about some foods to limit? I love that you don't say avoid completely, and that you advocate that we don't feel deprived, that it's about abundance and about nourishment rather than starvation and deprivation. So what foods should we, if not deprive ourselves of, at least limit?
Well, I'll first say that one of the main reasons I encourage people to limit instead of avoid is because restriction sets almost everybody up for complete failure and abandonment of any intention of healthy eating. And so the foods that I would say to limit are not going to surprise anybody. Highly processed foods like crackers, chips, sweets, candies, ice creams, pastries, even things like cheese and high-fat meat, those should be in smaller quantities. Alcohol, much smaller quantities. Focus on whole foods, whole single ingredient foods.
Let's talk about alcohol. It's a great time at the beginning of the year. There's probably been some overconsumption of the holidays. And I think many of us think of alcohol as one of those little treats that you deserve a glass of wine after a long week or a long day, or you've completed a project. And yet I have noticed that there's this mommy wine. You see it in all the Facebook groups. It's hard to buy someone a pair of pajamas or a mug as a gift without there being something about Prosecco on there. So what is the good? Is it a treat? Should we reward ourselves? What is the danger and the damage that alcohol can do? And what is your advice on whether it should be completely eliminated, whether it can be kept in the diet, but in moderation?
My advice on that comes from what I learned from something out there called the Mind Diet. And the Mind Diet is something that is out there that talks about which foods and food groups are good to support cognitive function and prevent dementia. Okay. And the recommendations from that say 1 glass, I believe a 5 ounce or less for men and women a day, not any more than that.
Okay.
And so those are recommendations. On a really practical, to me, logical way to look at why to choose something else other than alcohol is that it can really sap your clarity of your mind and your energy level. And I don't think anybody out there, because so many people out there are so busy and have so many things that they want to do, can afford to be even more tired than they are. Right. And so I am not a part of the mommy culture that does the wine thing, but I have seen a lot of women that have used other things to wind down, numb out, calm themselves, relax, treat themselves, like sweets or chips or pizza or something. It all kind of falls into the same category of numbing or treating. And typically that's not actually nourishing anybody. And so with my own history of overeating, emotional eating, eating a lot of sugar, how I've helped myself and helped a lot of women is to encourage them to find something that brings them comfort and relaxation, but that is also nourishing for them. Right. And there's a lot of things, non-food things, actually. Like having a conversation with a good friend or your mom or your sister, somebody that brings you good feelings, having a cup of tea, doing something creative like drawing or painting. I actually really like to dance in my kitchen and cook or clean up, go for a walk, pray, meditate, sing. There's so many things that can actually revitalize us and bring us comfort that are nourishing and not shrinking us.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And a lot of those are things we say we don't have time for. And yet when you have that glass of wine, you're not going to really do anything else. On that same subject of treating with a glass of wine, there was a book that just came out in 2018 called Hungover, and it was a New York Times writer who had been a heavy drinker, and his search was for a cure for a hangover. He's written a very funny, very well-received book. And what he discovered when he did find a very effective cure, even for after a night of heavy drinking, was that the physical hangover was not just the thing, that there was more, that there was a mental hangover, that heavy drinking or drinking in any capacity took a toll, had a little bit of regret attached to it. So I think it is good, especially at the start of the year, for everyone, especially, again, that culture where we treat, we reward with a glass of wine or a glass of beer, that maybe to rethink it. So I love that idea that you do something that's a real treat for you. Scrapbooking, making a conversation that you tell yourself often that you don't have time for.
Yeah,
that's great advice.
I want to add one other thing with the idea of the treat and the reward, because some people out there that are having a glass of wine, it's not every day, and I'm not talking to somebody that's really using it as a special occasion. I had that a week or two. You know, I went out with somebody special and we enjoyed a glass of wine, and that was probably I probably have had a glass of wine 3, 4, 5 times in the last year. That's a treat. A treat is not several times a week.
Yes, yes. And I know that you talk that it's not, if you think of the drink or the tub of ice cream as a reward for something good that you've done for your health, which many of us do, you really are taken away rather than adding a treat, something you enjoy, which enhances what you've done rather than take away from it. Yes. Erin, you go beyond talk with your client transformation. You will actually navigate grocery tours for your clients. So take us a walk through Trader Joe's.
I've been doing the Trader Joe's grocery store tours for many years, and I do it because I call it a walking nutrition consultation, because typically any dietitian or nutritionist will sit down or have a phone call with somebody, and there's this exchange of information, and most of the time, I believe, the person on the other end of the phone who is being helped either has a lot of questions after the phone call about what to actually buy or forgets half the information. So we go right into the grocery store, and they're really personalized based on the person's goals. So once I did a tour for someone who was newly diagnosed with diabetes, and so we looked at carbohydrate content and fiber content and some other information on labels, and I showed them how to take a few different things that are in the store and put them together for a meal that would support regulating their blood sugar control. I will take, some people really just want to know how to put some ingredients together because they don't know how to do anything other than put a frozen meal in or go get takeout. So I will show them, you know, I'll pull this dressing and this piece of produce and this protein, and I will show them how to make things. So they're actually shopping, they're actually implementing the behavior as they're learning the information. That solidifies it, and it makes the action happen now rather than contemplating in the future.
And I bet that that's one of the things that would help these changes become a lifestyle change rather than a diet that's going to end after 30 days. If in the store they know how to keep repeating it. And do you also help them to choose between foods that maybe look alike, but here's the healthier one, or how to look for processed foods, chemicals, that sort of thing? Because it really, it really can be so overwhelming.
It is. There's so much information on the nutrition fact panel to begin with, and there's also information that's not on the nutrition fact panel that they don't know. And so luckily, one of the things that I love about Trader Joe's is there's no artificial ingredients, there's no high fructose corn syrup, there's no trans fats, and there's some things that no matter what they buy, they're going to be great without them. But then I'll pull different things like maybe a couple frozen pizzas and show them the difference between the fat content on them or the carbohydrate on them. There's cauliflower crust pizzas now, so we'll look at that versus that. We'll look at how some people think popcorn is better than pretzels or chips or tortilla chips, but actually if you look at the labels on those containers, it's a pretty similar amount of carbohydrates per serving, and neither of them is actually providing, it's not a nutrient powerhouse. We'll look at ice creams, we'll look at yogurts is one of my favorite things to show people because actually with the new nutrition guidelines, which should change what people are putting on the fact panel by, I think, 2021, they have to distinguish, manufacturers have to distinguish how much is natural sugar that's in there, like from dairy, and how much is added sugar. And so I love to show people the yogurt and the kefir labels and show them all the carbohydrates that are in there, but they actually aren't able to make a decision, a clear decision, because they can't see how much sugar is actually added. But I've worked on labels before, so I know there's quite a bit of sugar added to fruit flavored and vanilla flavored yogurt.
I have never heard of a grocery tour before. So I don't know if you invented that or you just, perfected it, but I love it.
I think I thought about it around the same time where grocery stores were starting to hire dietitians, but in my own mind it was my idea.
It's yours, yes, and I love it, and I'm giving it to you. You also, not just what to eat, but you talk about the best time of the day to eat and how to eat when you're eating. Could you tell us a little bit about that, about when you should stop eating. Yeah, how do you strike a balance between being still a little bit hungry and then having eaten too much?
Right. Well, I think the more important points that you made there are the how much and the when to stop, and more so than actual times to eat. Although I think structure is important for some people. You know, say 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 5 p.m., that helps some people. But mindful eating includes paying attention to how full you are and how hungry you are throughout the day. And that was one of the keys to my own successful weight loss and weight maintenance. I'm not sure if we've said on here, but I've lost about 75 pounds, and I've kept it off for 7, 8, 9 years. And so some of the things that I encourage, including mindful eating, are things that have enabled me to do that. And mindful eating was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. But basically what it is when you have your food in front of you, you're eating slowly and you're eating without a distraction. So eating without
no
television,
TV.
right? But it's not just no television, it's no scrolling, no texting, no, some people eat while they're walking around the kitchen or doing chores. There's always, we are so good at finding distractions, especially this day and age. And so I couldn't possibly list all the ways that people are mindlessly eating, but I like to explain why it's important through this example of, if you were going to meet up with a friend for an hour, a friend that you adored, that you hadn't seen in a year, it's important to you.
Right.
You would not be on your phone, you would not be staring out the window, you'd be totally present because that encounter is meaningful. It's a little, maybe it's a little extreme because we eat several times a day. This is talking about meeting a special friend once a year. But if you have your meal in front of you and you're doing something else, then you're not enjoying it. And I think it's one of the reasons that we're constantly excited about the next meal is because the previous meal, we didn't enjoy it. We probably don't even remember it. And so when you're able to eat slowly, savor it, enjoy it, I think that increases your satisfaction, decreases the total calories that you're eating for the day. You're able to stop when you're full, and so many more benefits. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is an actual practical tool that I use myself and have given to a lot of people. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being super starving and 10 being like post-Thanksgiving meal full, it's good to stay between a 3 and a 7 or a 3 and an 8. That way you're not getting too hungry that you're making a really poor decision or eating everything, and you're not getting so full that you've eaten more than your body actually needs. So if you stay between a 3 and an 8, and mindful eating helps you to stay in there, then that helps you to achieve and maintain a more healthy weight.
Yes, I like it. And what about water and sleep and exercise? All that too filters into that vibrancy to get our goals achieved and be able to have that happier life.
Yeah, so it's not just food, although food nutrition plays a huge role in achieving and maintaining a healthy, strong body. Sleep is something that I've talked to personally. People are looking at all the different characteristics of wellness and how they can improve their quality of life, and they don't even want to talk about food. They want to talk about getting more sleep, and that's because being well rested also supports clear thinking, attention, focus, memory, energy, and the same thing with water. Sometimes people will ask me, what's the most important thing for me to eat in a day? And I will actually joke, but I'm mostly serious, that water, because for most people aren't hydrated, and being properly hydrated can noticeably boost your energy and your focus, your memory, that's all your vitality.
Yes.
And so there's sleep. Exercise is important. our bodies are designed to move. And you can see that with little kids, right? Little kids have so much energy. They're jumping and bouncing and hopping and skipping and climbing. And we can see at that age, we were designed to move. And at some point when we become adults, we stop moving and we can get aches and pains, and they can be the reason that we really avoid moving even more. But actually doing even gentle yoga or stretching can bring our bodies back to wellness.
Oh, I love it, Erin. You have the whole picture, the entirety of wellness we've talked about today in some capacity. How can our viewers find you if they want to know a little bit more about what you do, if they need a nutritionist, if they want a grocery tour, or you do a lot of speaking and you speak in local venues? So let our viewers know how they can find you.
Yes, thank you, Eileen. I have a website, www.erindubichnutrition.com. I have a blog on there that has over 100 articles, a lot about wellness and vitality, but also for people out there that struggle with emotional eating or overeating, mindless eating. There's articles on everything there. There's information about the grocery store tours there, and there's a contact form where you can send me a direct email.
I love it. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. There's so much information today, so I don't want to give you more information. What I actually tell most people when I do the speaking events, especially at corporate wellness talks where most people would not normally go and find a dietitian, but they're there and they hear me. I say, pick one thing that you learned today that resonates with you the most, that you know that would help you, and just focus on doing that one thing consistently, because it's doing the one thing consistently that will make a difference and build your confidence so that you can then implement more things.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much for your expertise and for your insight and for sharing it with us. And thank you, viewers, for watching. Here is to a vibrant, healthy, energized new year, and indeed, new life for all of us. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time on Where the Road Rises.